Okay guys, so tonight's homework is all about subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. Sometimes it requires borrowing and regrouping, like that trading that we do, and sometimes they don't. So the first one that we have is an example of just doing a problem with subtracting with unlike denominators. So just like always, when we have a problem with mixed numbers like that, with mixed numbers where we have different denominators, first we have to find a commonality between the two fractions. And so we need to find common denominators. So in this case, remember that you can always list your multiples of each of your denominators. So in this case, it would be 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, and so on. And 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12. But since I see there's one that they have in common, I'm going to go ahead and use 6. So I'm going to use 6 as the denominator for each one of these. And since I have a denominator of 6 and another denominator of 6, and it's going to stay the same way, has equal value, so I don't have to make any changes there. But for the fraction 1 2/3, I need to change this fraction over so that way it has a denominator of 6 but still with the same value. So to get from 3 to 6, I have to multiply by 2, so I need to do the same to the bottom and the top. So 2 times 2 is 4. So now my fraction with the same value is now 1 4/6. So now I can do my subtracting. So I know that 5 and 5 6 minus 1 4/6 is going to give me a 4. 5 6 minus 4 6 is going to give me 1/6. And so since this is already simplified, I don't need to do any simplifying with 1/6, then I know that I am finished. Now let's scoot over here real fast though to one where I have to do some borrowing, or as we sometimes call it regrouping, or as we also sometimes call it some trading. Okay, so with this problem, 5 and 1/6 minus 2 and 7/8. I'm going to start off this problem just like all my other problems and find my common denominator. So I'm going to list my multiples for both 6 and 8. So 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 4 is 24, 6 times 5 is 30. Okay? So now we're doing the same thing for 8. 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 8 times 3 is 24, and since I see a common one here, I don't need to keep going. So 24 is my denominator that I'm going to use. And so now I need to change over each of these fractions to make them still have that same value, but with a denominator that I can work with. So to get from 6 to 24, I need to multiply by 4. We're going to do that to the same to the bottom and the top, so that way it has the same value. So 4 24ths, and put that 5 in front of it. And so now to get from 8 to 24, I need to multiply by 3. So do the same to the bottom and the top. 21 24ths, so I'm going to slide this 2 over. Okay, so now as I look at my subtraction problem, if I have 4 24ths, I cannot take away 21. So this is where my trading or my regrouping happens. So in order to do that, I know that this is all one number and one value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit here from my whole number. I'm going to trade out a whole, or I'm going to take one of the wholes away, and I'm going to just write it. It's still worth 1, but it just looks like a fraction now. But now I can put these two fractions together. So when I get that, I have still my whole number, which is 4, so I'm just going to slide this guy over here. But now my fractions, I have 4 24ths plus 24 24ths, and that gives me 28 24ths. And now I should be able to subtract. So let's go ahead and drag this guy over to 21 24ths. And now I'm able to subtract. Okay, so when I subtract these, I have 28 24ths minus 21 24ths, and that gives me 7 24ths. And when I subtract my whole numbers, I get 2. The last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to check my fraction here to see if it needs to have any simplifying. Since I know that the 7 has only factors of 1 and 7, and 24 only shares that factor of 1, and it doesn't share that factor of 7, then I know that I'm finished. Okay, some of your problems might require you to check here and do some simplifying. So if that's required, go ahead and do that. Okay, so the important thing to remember is when you're borrowing, that you're trading out equal values here. So for the 5, I traded out a 1, so the 5 became a 4. And this 1 here, I just made it into a fraction that I could add to the 4/24. So I made it a value of 1. It still has that value of 1. So when I look at this whole section right here, the 4, the 4/24, and the 24/24, it still has that same value as 5 and 4/24. It just looks a little different. Okay? Same thing this, 4 and 28/24. It still has the same value, it just looks a little different. Okay? And so that's the important thing to keep in mind, is that when you're trading something out, you have to trade it for a whole fraction here. That means 1. Okay? And then that way you're able to do your subtracting more efficiently. Alright? Remember, as always, if you have questions, bring them in the morning and we'll talk about them. Okay? Otherwise, good luck, take your time, and do your best. See ya!